Welcome to another session of Learning and Practice. In this session we represent the AC method for factorizing and solving quadratic equations where the factor of A is greater than 1. We looked at the simple methods where A is equal to 1. Here the AC method is used for general quadratics of the format x squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where the value of A is greater than 1. And we're going to do this, we can learn about this AC method through an example. Now in our example for this session, presentation session, we're going to take a quadratic equation where A is equal to plus 4 and then B is plus 15, which is the factor of x, and then C is plus 9. Now we've selected positive values for B and C just to exemplify the AC method. Of course we will look in the next video about other situations where B and C take different signs. Now as a first step, as the title indicates, using the AC method we're going to calculate the value of A times C. Now A is plus 4 and times C plus 9 in our example, in the equation for x squared plus 15x plus 9 equals 0. Now we calculate the product of A times C. Plus 4 times plus 9 is plus 36. And like we've seen in the previous session with the simple method, there is similarity here. We look for the factors of 36. So we start with the easiest pair of factors, 1 and 36, and then you can work out the rest. 1 times 2 is 2, 36 divided by 2 is 18, that's the second pair. Now 1 times 3 is 3, and 36 divided by 3 is 12, third pair. Now for the next pair, 2 and 18, 2 times 2 is 4, 18 divided by 2 is 9, and then you can find the last pair finally, 3 times 2 is 6, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So the last pair is 6 times 6, 36, and we found the whole list of factors of 36. Now, like we've seen in the simple method in the previous sessions, we'll have to decide on the sign of those numbers for each pair. Now to look for the sign, we have to consider the factor of x, which is plus b. In our case is plus 15. Now we need two numbers that would add up to give plus 15, because factor of x is the sum. Now if two numbers add up to give a positive number, that means the larger of the two factors must be positive for that sum to be positive. So in our case 1 and 36, 36 is the larger factor. For the sum to be positive, 36 has to be positive, and all those large numbers for each pair of factors have to be positive, from 36 to 6. Now plus times plus is plus, so the smaller numbers for each pair are also positive factors. That way all these factors will multiply to give plus 36. But now we have to decide which two factors we need to consider to factorize our quadratic. Now we need to look for the matching factors. In our case it's plus 3 and plus 12 would add up to give plus 15, the value of b, which is the factor of x, the sum s. Now we found our matching factors. Now we're going to use them to incorporate in our quadratic in order to solve. So that's step 2 done. We found the matching factors. Now we have to incorporate those matching factors in our quadratic. So 15x can be written as 3x plus 12x. So 3x plus 12x give us 15x. So we can incorporate that into our 15x. Now the quadratic equation can then be rewritten using the matching factors. So 15x as 3x plus 12x, an important step here. So step 3, we're going to rewrite the quadratic incorporating 3x and 12x. So we have 4x squared plus 3x plus 12x plus the last term 9 equals 0. Great. Now that step 3 is done. We can start factorizing now. In order to do that, we're going to consider the first two terms and the second two. So the first two terms, 4x squared plus 3x, and the second two terms, 12x plus 9. Notice I'm keeping the sign plus between the two sets of terms. Now the first two terms can then factorize by taking x as a common factor times 4x plus 3. Now the first two terms are factorized. Let's factorize the second two. I'm keeping the positive sign, plus 9 and 12. The highest common factor is 3. So, and second two terms would factorize as 3 times 4x plus 3 equals 0. Excellent. Now it's not fully factorized yet, but we notice that we have two identical factors, 4x plus 3. That means we can factorize further by taking the 4x plus 3 as a common factor for those resulting two terms in the previous step. So you're going to have 4x plus 3, because it's times x, so it's going to be 4x plus 3 times x, and plus, so the second factor of 4x plus 3 is 3, equals 0. Now it's fully factorized, and we have 4x plus 3 times x plus 3 equals 0. So the 4x times x gives the 4x x plus 3, and the 3 times 4x plus 3 give us the second term, 3 times 4x plus 3. So it's fully factorized. Now we can solve, and that's step 5. As we've seen in the simple method, if two factors multiply to give 0, one of the factors must be 0. So in our case here, we could have the first possibility, so either the first factor, 4x plus 3, is equal to 0, a simple linear equation, or we can solve by doing the opposite, so getting rid of plus 3 by doing minus 3 on both sides to keep the balance. So we end up with 4x on the left hand side equals minus 3. So again, the opposite of timesing by 4 is dividing by 4. So dividing both sides by 4 as the first root or the first solution, x equals minus 3 over 4, minus 3/4. Now the other possibility here is having the second factor equal to 0. So the second factor in our case, so it's x plus 3 equals 0. Again, simple linear equation. Get rid of it, we do the opposite, minus 3 on both sides to keep the balance, and that gives us the second root and second solution, x equals minus 3. And we found both solutions for this quadratic equation. I mean, as I said at the beginning of the session, we looked at a simple example here where b and c are positive numbers. But in the next session, we will look at some examples where b and c take different signs. So let's recap. We looked at 15x. So the factor of x is 15, b equals plus 15. We looked at the product a times c. We found all the factors of 4 times 9, 36, starting with the simplest one, 136, and look at the method how to find the other factors, timesing and dividing, and finding all the factors. Now, once we find the matching factors, in our case plus 3 and plus 12, we substituted the 3 and the 12 by 3x and 12x, and in terms of the sum for the value of b, so we put 3x plus 12x equals 15x, and then we substituted in our quadratic 15x by 3x plus 12x, and we have found the matching factors, and they are incorporated in the quadratic, as we can see in the next step here in green. So 3x plus 12x instead of 15x. Now once we incorporate the matching factors and the product of x to substitute 15x, then we factorize the first two terms, 4x squared plus 3x, to give x times 4x plus 3, and the second two terms, 12x plus 9, to give 3 times 4x plus 3. We identified a common factor, 4x plus 3, so we factorized further to complete our factorization process, and we ended up with two factors equal to 0, which we then solved by looking at both possibilities, being the first factor equals 0, second equals 0, which resulted into two roots or two solutions. Now next lesson we'll look at some practice questions, as I said, with different signs for B and C. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next session.